Good morning to everyone who's joining. We're going to start in about 1 minute. We'll wait for a few more people to join. Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the applicant webinar for the Housing Lab. I'm Michelle Boyd. I'm the director of the Housing Lab. I'll be running the webinar today. I want to take a moment to introduce Chris, our operations manager. Chris, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Martinez, and I'm the operations manager here at Turner's Lab.
Chris will be running the back end, so you may get pings from him. And if you run into any technical issues, like you can't hear us or can't see something, please send a message in the chat to Chris. So I am going to run through a couple slides here, probably about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Feel free to drop questions into the Q&A feature in the chat as they come up. And if they're small things, I may address them while I'm talking, and then otherwise we will save them for the end. So thanks for joining. Also, as we noted, this webinar will be recorded and posted on our website after we are done and will be accessible. We will also be publishing an FAQ that comes from this webinar that can be accessible to other applicants. I say that to please ask your questions. This will be a resource to other applicants and for yourself in the future. If you're wondering what the answer is, someone else probably is too. So please chime in. And with that, I will get started. So the Housing Lab is the only national accelerator program that supports both nonprofit and for-profit models that are addressing housing. As you may tell from our website, but to make it clear, we support solutions from all sub-areas of housing. Our cohort covers multifamily rental, homeownership, finance solutions, homelessness prevention, and more. We work with construction innovations, nonprofit community development models, funds, you name it. It touches housing, it touches affordability and equity. It is in scope for us. We also have a strong focus on racial equity and diversity. Over almost 2/3 of our cohort have BIPOC leadership, and we have a strong focus on how to actualize an organization's goals around issues of racial equity in our program. Sound. Other people are having a sound problem. Great, thank you for putting this into the chat. Can others confirm whether they are having sound issues? I can hear, I have sound. No sound issues here. Okay, sorry, Jackie and John. I bet this, I can give you a moment to troubleshoot and confirm the webinar will be recorded if you need to come back and check. Thank you, everyone. Good use of the chat. So we've been doing this now for a couple years, and we're proud to say we've supported 11 ventures. They've gone on to raise over $295 million and create measurable outcomes for 23,000 people. On average, are raising 18 times more capital to support their initiatives than when they start with us. And we're just getting started. These companies that are all adding up to this are still young and have a lot of place to grow. And we're excited to continue to support companies in their growth. A big focus of our work, as I'll get into later, is around supporting policy and partnerships with government as a great path to scale within the housing sector. A couple of our ventures have gone on to sign significant partnerships and influence policy. Here on the slide are two examples from our 2019 to 2020 cohort of partnerships with Freddie Mac and influencing policy at HUD. We also have ventures in our cohort that just wrapped up who are signing significant contracts with their state or county to co-invest in projects and create pilot projects together. To clarify for anyone who is curious, we were founded officially as part of the Turner Center for Housing Innovation at UC Berkeley. Our first cohort was fully within UC Berkeley. We have since spun out and we anchor an independent nonprofit called Turner Housing Innovation Labs. As you can tell from the name, we are still very closely affiliated with UC Berkeley and with the staff at the Turner Center. The independent nonprofit structure just allows us a bit more flexibility for how we run our operations and does support our national focus of our program, whereas UC Berkeley has a California focus for a lot of its work. So what this means for people in the program is that we do some of our events close to the Berkeley campus. There are graduate students and undergraduates who interact with our program, which are great sources of internships and recruiting. And you have easy introductions to faculty at UC Berkeley as people who can continue to support and advise on your model. Great, I'm hearing from someone, although I guess if I speak out loud, those who are struggling with the sound won't hear me. But yes, I do recommend watching this on Zoom and sign in order to hear the sound. And I'll repeat that the webinar is recorded, so you can come watch it later. Thanks everybody who's chiming in. So the main service that we provide to organizations is the often average of 75K grant. The range is 50 to 100, depending on the organizational size and capacity, but average around 75. That is pure general operating, open, free to use as is most needed for your organization. We find that this often offsets expenses that are otherwise hard to cover, such as seeding new programs or paying for founder and leadership salaries. We then provide intensive advising. We'll go a little bit more into the advising model, but on business model, policy strategy, and capital structuring. This is executed through weekly or bi-weekly meetings with a coach, which we'll talk more about. You also get full access to Turner's national network. This is housing developers, policymakers, community organizations, investors. Turner is a leading policy institution on federal, state, and local housing policy, and we put our full weight of Turner behind the organizations in our program. Ventures also get each other, and that we've seen a lot of our ventures actually partner with each other, advise each other. We drive a lot of value from combining people who are raising, venture capital money, big technology, kind of have a technology, big scale vision, with nonprofit founders who are really providing deep services to people in vulnerable need of housing. And we think that these models and these founders really inform each other from the different perspectives that they bring, and is an intentional part of our community, and provides a lot of opportunity for partnerships, advising, and relationships. As I mentioned, the main areas are differential value add and advising is in these three categories. I'll take a moment to note here that we do often work with ventures who have gone through other incubator or accelerator programs that may be supporting general social ventures, venture capital and ventures, nonprofit programs. We provide specific advising on the challenges to innovate within the housing market. So this is the navigating the complex policy environment, both navigating regulations and figuring out how to partner with government to scale faster. Finessing different types of money, as we say here, whether that's loans, equity investment in a for-profit company, or philanthropic grants, and connections to investors. And then also this last category of really org alignment and design, thinking about how organizations can bring in the right people, whether that's staff, board members, investors, who really support the core mission and can help the organization succeed in the long term towards the organization's social goal. Our core team on the program side is Carol Galante, who is the founder of the Turner Center and the board chair of Turner Labs. She is the former commissioner of the Federal Housing Authority and founded the Turner Center. She provides a lot of advising, particularly on policy strategy. Me, as you obviously know, and then Cristobal, who you met at the beginning, who works on our operations side. We also bring in an incredible team of core coaches. You'll see their names on the website. And I will note they've come from both nonprofit, for-profit, government, banking, kind of different backgrounds. And the last month of our diligence process, which we'll talk about later, is really about finding the right coach within our group of coaches that we pull from to work with companies. A couple examples from our current cohort that we're just wrapping up. Blackstar Stability, which they help people who currently have a predatory home finance arrangement, like a contract for deed, which means you may be paying your monthly payments every month, but you don't actually have any of the benefits of homeownership. They help people with those models convert into traditional mortgages. Once they joined the Housing Lab, they owned 118 homes. They've since raised $50 million and are on set to purchase the next 2,000 homes over the next year and a half. We've really helped them consider their path to scale by partnering with the government or other impact investors, and then also thinking particularly around their product structure, refining and tweaking that to increase its impact, finding the right partners, and the ways that provides feedback into their actual model, their implementation model of their initiative. I'll note Blackstar is a for-profit social impact organization. Another example is a group called Impact Justice, which runs a program called Homecoming Project. This is a good example to show, yes, this presentation will be shared after the meeting. Thanks, Brian. Homecoming Project is a program of Impact Justice. We like to include this example to make clear that we are willing to work with spin-offs and programs within larger organizations. It's important to us that that program is a high priority for the organization because we invest a lot of advising and resources into it, but definitely willing to work with those spin-offs. So Homecoming Project helps place people coming out of long prison sentences coming home into extra bedrooms in communities, and then they pay the homeowners who are hosting them $30 a day to host them and have a real wraparound support model. We've helped them develop their path to scale as they expand to their second city. They're right now in the Bay Area, and they're expanding to LA. We're also helping them think about bring government money into their model so they're less dependent on philanthropic capital. And we're also directly connecting them with willing investors. So two good examples to just touch on different parts. The earlier examples, Asusu and PadSplit are more tech focused companies. And I encourage you to spend a little bit of time, if you haven't already, on our website, where there are links to all of the different organizations that have been in our cohort so far. At a high level, the schedule for this year is we are working towards a final selection of our cohort in July, and we'll kick off programming in August. The August programming will be virtual, meeting your one-on-one coach, setting goals for the program, and then doing a virtual cohort to kick off to meet the rest of the cohort. That will then continue every 4 to 6 weeks. You'll meet with your coach on your own schedule, whether it's weekly or biweekly. And then we will all come together in person in the fall in the Bay Area. This was a new thing we added to the program for our 2021 cohort, and got it in just in a dip within COVID. And it was a really wonderful experience and something we'll be doing moving forward. And then January, this year we're doing it in March because of COVID, but generally in January, we bring everyone to DC for policy roundtables and another virtual symposium, and then some other services and kind of cohort cohesion. So main takeaway from this is that a lot of the work is virtual, but we do bring everyone together twice for in-person community building and networking events. We often get questions about what a strong application looks like. If you haven't already, I encourage you to review the selection criteria on our website. It's at the bottom of the apply page and should give you a sense of what we are looking for in strong applicants. In addition to that, some of the things that matter a lot in that process, this is repeated, but obviously a clear connection to our core mission. We are a nonprofit program. We do invest philanthropic capital. The organizations that we're working with do have to advance our core mission of housing affordability and equity, with an added focus this year on sustainability, which we can talk more about. I also recommend that applicants balance high-level storytelling with sufficient detail. We have word limits, as you may have seen in the application, of 200, 250 words. We encourage you to use that to provide us with sufficient detail on your organization, especially if you don't have a website. It is intentional that we don't ask for pitch decks or follow-up materials in these early stages. It's a point for fairness for all applicants and an opportunity for you to express your interest in the program by filling out our application. We also encourage you to make your application easy to understand, written for a layperson. Our team's really smart. They're really gotten up in housing policy, but it's important for you to be able to express your concept in terms that everyone can understand. This will also make sure that our selection committee and everyone else who's involved in the selection process really does understand the core of your model. My last slide here is a bit on the flow and timing of the application process. So the initial application period, which is what we are in now, is these 10 short answer questions plus some basic information on your program. It says March 15th. I apologize, that's a typo. It's March 30th. It's a holdover from a past year. The second application that we then invite about 1/3 of our applications to a second round application. This is when we ask more information about your financials, your growth plans. If you have a pitch deck or an investment prospectus, this is when we will ask for it. We do ask for responses in a week. However, if this comes at a bad time for you, you're on vacation, you have other deadlines, we are able, just let us know and we can extend that week request. We then will invite you, top applicants from that, to a first round interview, just 30 minutes to ask a few more questions about your program. After that, when we're down to about a dozen, so we only ask this of people that we're seriously considering working with. We spend about a month figuring out more in detail about how we'll partner during the program. We may also at this point ask for references, or if you have a particularly complicated model or things have changed in your organization over the past 3 months, this is a chance to also send us additional documentation. There will then be a final interview that is also virtual with our selection committee and program leadership near the very end of the process for the top applicants. Okay, that was a lot of information. I'm going to exit out of the presentation now and open it up to questions. I'm happy to bring up any of these slides. I will share the slides afterwards to everyone who's attended and also post them to our website. Okay, please feel free. It seems like we have a decent sized group here. So let's start by going in the chat and if there's opportunity to ask a question or you want to unmute yourself, please ask for permission in the chat just so people don't start talking over each other. Okay, great, lots of questions. Okay, how many groups do we typically select into the program? We, on average, select between 4 and 6 organizations. This is something that may increase in future years and may increase this year, but right now we're planning to stay within that number. Fiscally sponsored organizations, yes, Katie, are definitely welcome to apply. This fits within our ability to work within spinoffs and early stage organizations. We will be looking for early proof of concept in what you're doing, but your organizational structure is less important to us. Miriam asked how many people have applied in the past. In past years, we actually get around 150 applications to the program. I will say that can be intimidating to applicants. I will say that within that, that's about 3/4 of those, 2/3 are high quality applications. So we do encourage you, even though it may seem like for some like a long shot, to please apply. Please describe the 250-word statement request and what should be the content outline. John Rosenbaum, I will direct you towards our application form, which you should be able to get to from our website. These are 10 questions. Most of them have a word limit around 150 to 200 words. So that's what I'm referencing when I spoke about 250 words. Nathan Peters, great questions. Good questions, everybody. I'll take a second to slow down. So Nathan Peters, what investment stage are most accepted? Pre-seed, seed. The language that we like to use that is inclusive of all organizational models is that we are looking for organizations that have some early proof of concept. This is maybe you've run a pilot program, maybe if you're still working on if you're doing a real estate development, maybe you've gotten your first financing into your model or secured a site. If you're a venture capital company, maybe you've developed your product and secured your first partnership. And so you have some like proof that your product is needed or your service organization is needed in the market, that there's demand for it, and you're really looking to scale. If you are a venture capital company, this most correlates with somewhere between the seed and Series A round of financing. For those who aren't familiar with venture capital financing, Series A is usually a type of money that you raise when you want to start your initial push towards scaling a company. Many of the companies that do raise venture capital in our program raise Series A financing either in the program or within the year after graduating. Well, to Jackie, what level of detail and sophistication are you looking for in the financials? Great question. We want what you have, frankly. We are looking to understand how you've been thinking about your organizational finances. For organizations where finance is the key part of your innovation, Blackstar Stability, which is converting homes from predatory mortgages to better mortgages, the financing is really important. So we asked for a lot of detail for them. They already had it because they were raising money. So we just reviewed their existing documentation. For other firms, another example is some we've worked with, Los Angeles Room and Board. They were providing services to students. They wanted to work with us to help make their real estate finance models more sophisticated. They just submitted a simple program budget that showed just what their revenues were, government funding for their services, how much the students paid, and then what their staff and expenses were. So it'd be just a basic budget in that case. Jackie, feel free to chime in if you would like me to answer that question anymore. Drop it in the chat. Jennifer Gilbert, how are participants matched with coaches, and are the coaches likely to be those now listed on your website? Great question. So coaches are matched by, we start to get a sense of through, as you'll see in the first application and more in the second application, you'll start to see that we're asking questions about the areas that you want for support. This is starting to make our minds think about who in our network, either our existing coaching network or other people that we know we can bring in who we think could help support your organization. During the last 4 to 6 weeks of the selection process, we start to think a lot more about that for the companies that we're still considering, organizations we're still considering. At that point, we then check in with those coaches, send them information on the organization, and confirm that they're interested. We will then aim to, in the final weeks of the selection process, if you're still in consideration, to let you know the coach that we're considering and give you some sense and ability to confirm whether that's a good match as we think about working with each other. There's then, in the first couple weeks of the program, an opportunity to meet your coach, see whether there's a good fit. If there's not a good fit from a personality, we do have other personality or other reasons, interests. We've never had someone not feel like a good fit with their coach, but just in case, we do have others in our network. Over time, we've had, I want to say, 9 different coaches we've pulled in to support our companies. And so most of them are currently listed on our website, but not all of them. So there are other people we can draw on to match with you one-on-one. Keenan, I may have missed in the audio issues, but how long does the advising mentorship last? It's for 6 months. So for the 2020 cohort, that'll run from August of this year till January of next year. Marcus shared the apply link to the chat in case anyone didn't see it. John Rosenbaum, do you consider letters of recommendation as part of the application? Good question, not yet, and not in the early phases. This is something we may ask for in the later phases. Instead of letters of recommendation, we will ask for references. So if you have someone who's willing to provide a letter of recommendation, that would be the same individual you'd provide as a reference. If you think this is something that's really critical to us understanding your model, there will be an opportunity to talk in the second application to talk about your potential partners, and you can list an organization or individual that is a potential partner and direct us to them as a source of credibility for your application. Nathan Peters, can I elaborate on the new focus of sustainability? Absolutely. So we, over the years, have gotten a lot of questions and applications that are incorporating goals, what we broadly talk about as climate aligned goals. So this is things that are thinking about carbon reduction, that are considering adaptability to natural disasters, whether fire resistance, response and recovery from natural disasters. as well as solutions that are thinking about how to like bring in new types of energy and materials, which ultimately can lead to either carbon reduction or increased resilience. This is something we wanted to focus on for be able to diligence and support, but we haven't had the capacity internally. So this year we are bringing on a couple new members to our selection committee and expanding our coaching pool in order to better serve these organizations. It is critical that any organization with a sustainability lens is also addressing either the affordability or equity focus of our program. This is just an added focus that if they're also thinking about sustainability, we are expanding our ability to connect them to relevant investors, support the maybe more scientific sides of their model, and increase our relationships within the government around the sustainability piece. We've been working on this in development for the past 6 months and are really excited to add this to our program in the summer. What is the scope of who has access to reviews, applications, and how would confidentiality fit in? Great question. We get this a lot. So your first round application is just reviewed by our internal team. That is me as a staff member and our awesome group of graduate student fellows, some of whom are on the call today. I think Marcus, who dropped something in the chat, is here. They do the initial review. Once we are seriously considering organizations, we bring in a selection committee members. So these are very trusted leaders in the sector who intentionally are selected to not have any conflicts of interest that they are not disclosed for us. We do ask any private investors who sit on our selection committee to let us know any investments or considering investments or NDAs they have with other companies, and we do not let them review the details or financial information of any company that may be providing conflicting information for them. So that is the main way we handle confidentiality. We do share information, high-level information on applicants with our philanthropic partners who are broadly considering how to more significantly support innovation within the housing sector. We select those partners carefully and don't anticipate they have any risk or confidentiality issues of hearing more details about our model. Everyone throughout that process is instructed to not share any information they receive any further beyond. And so you'll never have your application posted on the internet. It will never be sent to a competing company based on the trust and requirements of everyone that we work with. Eddie, I want to, from Public Prefab, asked probably before I answered my question about sustainability about the CRAB, and I hear you say echo drivers. If you could please clarify what you're asking for, and if you still have a question later in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Mark, about your network, about our network, what are the more advisory or possible customer channels, etc.? Yes, so broadly within our network includes everyone from the National Association of Realtors, the Mortgage Bankers Association, some of these more professional networks within the field. We have contacts with senior leadership there. The nonprofit and for-profit multifamily affordable market rate developers, from the largest ones in the country to mid-sized ones. We have connections with majority of the top multifamily owners in the country, as well as many regional players as well. We also are connected within HPN, which is an association of affordable housing developers. For those of you who are bringing technologies to sale to multifamily owners, for example, that is something that we can support with from customers. We also, for those of you that are selling within to banks or intermediary organizations, we do have contacts with most of the major banks, and particularly like their community development, affordability, or mortgage, the pieces of their work that touch the issues that we care most about. We have numerous connections within the government at the federal, state, and local level, from HUD to Fannie and Freddie Mac. So HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department at the federal level, and Fannie and Freddie Mac, who influence the mortgage market, as well as some elected and appointed officials within the White House and other relevant organizations. At the state level, we are connected with, for example, housing finance agencies at a lot of the states that are very advanced or innovative in how they think about housing. as well as some governor's offices and cities and localities that are very housing forward, both here in California where we're based, but also across the country. I think that should probably answer your question. Oh, the last thing I'll say is investors, because we serve venture capital, all types of organizations, from technology companies, for-profit, nonprofit, real estate developers. Our investment network is diverse to reflect that. We have about 60 organizations that we are in communication with, who provide everything from pre-seed to more advanced capital, to private companies, to foundation capital, all types of programs. And we happily provide referrals to those organizations, to everyone who's in our program. Great, Keenan, for clarifying. Thank you. After graduated from the cohort, to some sort of mentoring continue, or more of a networking. So we're always here for our alumni. We're a small program that's intentional, that allows us to continue to serve our community. After the program, the formal relationship often ends. But I'm available for everybody in the program to continue to facilitate connections to our network is the main way that we engage with our alumni. We're also always around for like a one-off advisory call. In addition, we do see some of our organizations continue to have relationships with their advisors. So for example, Pad Split, which was in our first cohort, still works with Molly Turner, their coach, who they were matched with during the Housing Lab program. Often, especially for for-profit companies, they start paying for that advising at some rate after they graduate the program. All the advising is included within their membership within Housing Lab during the 6 months of the program. Potential connections from applying to this, even if we're not ultimately selected. Good question, Miriam. So we in the past have had a group of finalists and runners up that range from 2 to 5 additional companies. If you make it into that round of selection, it's usually what prevents the final selection is just like whether we feel like the core questions that you're trying to work on for your organization match what where we can help you. And so for organizations that don't meet that final fit match, we are very open with our networks to continue to introduce you to others that we think are helpful. For other organizations, the benefits, we do share a list of our top 25 to 30 organizations with everyone in our network. And so we'll share the organization, so a lot of the investors in our network. So we'll share the organization, the name, the category of organization, and your URL to the top impact investors that are either fund the Housing Lab or actively take referrals for us. So this is a way, if you make it into that category, to get promoted to potential investors. John asked whether Wharton has a somewhat similar accelerator. Great, I'd like to talk to them. Similar programs to us. We do partner often with a group called Ivory Innovations. If you don't know about them, they run a prize program on an annual basis for housing innovation, where we provide intent support. They provide promotion mostly and elevation of really cool ideas. Some organizations that have been in the Housing Lab have gone on to win the Ivory Prize. That's another great way if you're looking to be listed externally as an innovator. They are a great resource. Other programs that provide advising, we're familiar and connected with a number of organizations that provide general advising to social entrepreneurs. One of our ongoing partners is an organization called Uncharted, which I encourage you to check out. They also, like us, work with all types of organizations, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit company. Additionally, there are a number of regional housing accelerator programs or innovation centers. We've talked over the years to a group in Boston that supports local innovations. The city of LA is standing up actually an LA Metro Housing Lab that'll support really physical development innovations. So there's a number out there. I encourage you, if you're interested in learning more, to check out a website called HICO that I can drop in the chat when we're closing up, which does have a consolidated list of support organizations in the sector. Keenan, how do applicants find out what's missing from your application in order to have better chances understanding for future applications? Good question. So for all applications that make it after the second application round, so everyone who puts through the effort to the second application, we do endeavor to provide you with some amount of feedback. We can't do it for everyone who applies to us, unfortunately, at our current staffing levels, but it is something we are trying to incorporate better. So if you make it to that phase, we will provide you with information, particularly if you're an earlier a company, that organization that's a little too early stage for us. We will let you know what we think we would like to see if you apply again. If you're on this call and you applied last year and have not received communication from us indicating what we'd like to see from you, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to provide you with a few things that we'd like to see from your application this year to make it stronger. What is, Charlie, what's a mix of for-profit and nonprofit startups? Over the course of our 2 cohorts, it's about 50-50 for-profit and nonprofit models, a little more towards for-profit than nonprofit, but we are moving towards trying to be about 50-50 moving forward. To Daniel, we do not take equity from companies right now. That is not part of our model. We are working with some partners to stand up potentially an investment vehicle for future cohorts, but that's not something we offer at the moment. Right now, our grants are just grants. They don't require any equity or contributions from the company. Miriam, do any of our coaches have experience with worker-owned cooperatives? So our particular coaches don't, but we do have, there's another organization I would refer you to called the Purpose Foundation. They run a similar fellowship. It is focused mostly on financial and fund innovations that are improving wealth equality here in the US. They are a team of lawyers, legal advisors, and spun out of an organization, the Purpose Foundation in Germany, that was all based around worker-owned cooperatives. One of our organizations in this year's cohort was a graduate from their fellowship program. It's also possible to be in both our programs at the same time. Casey Key's partner organization, I'll drop that in the chat. That would be Ivory Innovations / Ivory Prize. Okay, I apologize by doing that. I lost our great chat. We're going down. Okay. Great. I think we're getting what was that worker co-ops would be discouraged for implying, Miriam. No, worker co-ops are not. We would definitely consider a worker-owned co-op that has a housing element. That is not a strong technical expertise of our current coaching model. It is something, however, that's in our network, and we would explore bringing in a coach. We have kind of a short list of coaches that we kind of keep on the back burner if organizations come up that need them, that we would consider matching you to. So I would encourage you to apply if you're otherwise interested, and we can take it from there. I think another question that got into the Q&A section, realize we are using the chat, I guess, for the Q&A, so thanks all for figuring that out. Who asked if being located in Texas is a problem? Absolutely not. Our companies are located all over the country, and is why we are primarily a virtual program. We believe that housing innovations happen in place. And so we don't encourage you to pick up and move or have to be located here. We do like to see organizations that have national relevance. You'll see this reflected in our selection criteria on the website. But what this means is you as an organization could just grow locally, but maybe you prove out a government partnership, investment partnership, or you provide data as a proof point to a certain model that could then be replicated and applicable elsewhere. Add the link to HiCo. Yes, I will add the link to HiCo. It's the, but I might do it in a second. It's called the LA Housing Innovation something. If there's anyone else on the chat who's familiar with what I'm struggling, thank you. Yes, that is it. Housing, yes, that's it. Housinginnovation.co. This has a database of many programs. You'll see us in here, and can be a great resource to find other resources out there. Paula, is there a rough estimate of hours a week or hours a month that participate dedicate? This great question. It really depends on the company and the organization. There's a range. We do recommend that organizations meet with their coaches at least around 2 hours a month. So that could be 30 minutes a week. That could be 1 hour every other week. That could be once a month for 3.5 hours, which is something one of our companies did choose. So that is what our coaches commit to as far as in-person time. Supporting that, we usually, all of that work is supported by work that happens in between those sessions. And that really is up to you and your team capacity, how you take advantage of that. We do encourage you to think about this as a significant commitment in order to get the most out of the program. But we hope that everything that you're working on in between advisory sessions is core stuff that's important to your program's growth. So it's not necessarily work that's just for the housing loan. Would an existing nonprofit community housing developer be considered? Absolutely. Existing nonprofit and community housing developers are definitely considering. What we will be looking for is how your model or what you're proposing, you're working on, can be an inspiring new model or innovative take on an existing model that can be instructive for the sector as a whole. If you feel like that resonates with you and the project that you're working on, I would definitely encourage you to apply. We have Trust Neighborhoods within our current cohort is a real estate development organization, a nonprofit organization that helps local community partners purchase rental properties in neighborhoods that are experiencing a lot of appreciation in prices. And so they're a nonprofit community development model that partners and is a scalable model. We are definitely open to partnering with a local nonprofit developer who's putting together like an innovative, more interesting development. Who comprises the selection committee from Charlie? I encourage you to check out our website under the About Us section. That'll have a list of our selection committee members. It's a mix of philanthropic funders, housing leaders, venture capital funders, impact investors in real estate. We also have, thanks Marcus for adding it to the chat. We also have some other supplementary people who support our application process who aren't currently listed on our website. They will be soon, but these are just people who provide like very technical expertise on certain types of models. This might be like multifamily finance, construction, materials and technology, or home finance in particular, or some particular like technology and venture capital investing. So there's about 4 individuals in that group that'll be on our website. They're all vetted by us to meet our criteria and understanding around conflicts of interest, etc. Whew, rapid fire. I'm going to take a pause there. I think I got everything in the chat. Please put in your question if you don't feel like I've answered it sufficiently. We have a few more minutes. So I'm going to take a pause to see if there are any additional questions. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else coming through. Any guidelines on team makeup? Will the link be provided to replay? We will be posting this on our website and we will send out a recording of the video to all of you who have attended. Any guidelines on team makeup? We do most often partner with companies who have at least more than 1 team member. Anywhere from 2 to 20 is the size of organizations that we've worked with so far. I actually think there's some of our organizations have had more than 20 staff by the time that they applied. On team makeup, it's really a fit with what you're working on. So if you are proposing a complex housing like mortgage finance solution, we'd be looking for your team to have expertise on that area and on the proposal that you're working on. So it's hard to answer a generalist question about team makeup. 1 full-time and a couple part-time. Yes, that's fine from a perspective. We will be looking to you to, there will be a question in the application about how you want to grow your team. So please elaborate there on your priorities for growing your team. True Footage, which is in our current cohort, did apply when they just had 1 person and they made their second hire while they were in the diligence process with us. See a couple in the Q&A. Do having a patents make a difference? Good question. It depends on what you're working on. If you have a technological model, like a real strong technology innovation, patents are always great. They definitely can make you a stronger candidate for investment beyond the work that we do, which is the work with us, which is something that we're looking for. So if it's something that's relevant for the type of thing you're working on, it's definitely encouraged, but it's not required if you have a technical innovation that doesn't yet have a patent. Hear your nonprofit development idea, feel free, sorry, reading out loud. If you're willing and able to hear a nonprofit idea, feel free to email. It compels you. I think Keenan, oh, got it. You're talking to someone else. Sorry, that goes for rapid fire, watching this chat while trying to talk. Keenan, I believe he just emailed, noted to Alexandra, another member here. Okay, I think I got everybody. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. I hope this was useful. As I mentioned, we will point, we will post this in the future, or we'll post this onto our website. One thing I do want to say is we, at this point in our application process, do not try to avoid engaging with companies one-on-one outside of our application process. It's just a line we draw to make it fair to applicants. If you do have real questions about whether or not you think like that were answered today, you are welcome to email our general email on our website, and we'll do our best to reply to those over email. If you are a returning applicant, and you really would like a deeper conversation to figure out if it's worth your time to apply, do please write an email to us. We'll try as we can to be responsive. And if necessary, we may set up a quick conversation to talk about that. This is just to make sure we're respecting your time, because we know it takes time to apply to our program. Okay, I think that's everything. For Heiko and Ivory Innovations, I recommend that you look on their website. They each have public-facing emails that you're welcome to reach out to. Email for general questions that Marcus just put in the chat. Okay, thank you, everybody. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions as we go through the process. I look forward to reading your applications to our program. Take care and have a great rest of your day.